talk about like people don't blame Haiti for capitalism, but they do blame Venezuela, right? My understanding of Haiti is there are a lot of corruption problems that exist within that government. It's not literally just they tried capitalism and it's ruining the country. But then people do blame Venezuela. Well, that was because Venezuela, like, very specifically started to make socialist pivots in its economy. It started to nationalize more industries. It started to wait. Which part of that do you disagree? Do you disagree that they were expropriating industries? Do you disagree that they tried to hardcore set price control?
The rate of state ownership in Venezuela is actually much lower than the rate of state ownership in China. Other than
wait. How is that a response? No. You wouldn't compare the state.
Oil, very little is nationalized, and I've been to Venezuela, and one of the biggest problems they have is that their economy is entirely centered around oil. And when the oil price dropped in 2014, that caused a huge amount of scarcity. They need to have farms there. They need to have steel manufacturing there, and they don't have it. If they had state-run big steel mills and state-run farms and all of that, they'd be in a much better shape.
Okay. If you want to at a future debate, I would love to come back and talk about Venezuela, because I am positive that your assertions there, that it was just because oil collapsed, that's why that country fell apart, is absolutely not true. And that no person that has been involved.
Is a big problem as well.
No, not corruption. That it was very specifically. Okay, it was very specifically pivots towards trying to socialize or nationalize or expropriate parts of their economy to set incredibly restrictive price controls that caused capital industry to flee that country, that caused some firms to no longer produce goods there or provide goods for its people. This is one of the large reasons why Venezuela. It's not just because oil prices fell a little bit. You don't see other OPEC countries.
An oil-producing country, a huge oil-producing country, bigger oil reserves than Saudi Arabia, than I've heard. The oil prices drop, and at the same time, they suddenly start having big economic problems, but it's unrelated. It's all just because they believe in socialism too much. That's what you're saying? Oil price drop of 2014 was dramatic. At that point, you could buy a family meal at Kentucky Fried Chicken that would cost more than a barrel of oil.
The petroleum sector accounts for roughly sure. So I'm just looking this up. Sure, I'm literally I'm looking this up on the fly because I know you're very incorrect. The petroleum sector accounts for roughly 87% of Saudi's budget reserves, 90% of the export earnings, and 42% of GDP. That's petroleum in Saudi Arabia. And Venezuela. Oil is
Saudi Arabia had big economic problems as well.
Saudi Arabia didn't have pictures of families eating rats off the street because their economy tanked so hard. I don't have people.
You're not allowed to.
From Saudi Arabia crying that they're
in the country that are guest workers, slaves. Saudi Arabia, you couldn't take a picture like that, and Saudi Arabia has had big economic problems during that time.
Sure. Okay. So look, I'm very curious. I'm just curious.
Nigeria had problems. Oil-producing countries all suffered as a result of 2014.
They did suffer.
Go ahead and Destiny. Go ahead and get your point in.
The fact that Venezuela didn't.
Are you going to make the claim that Venezuela suffered just as much as every other OPEC country did when oil prices fell? Is that the claim that you want to make?
No.
So why
Venezuela also suffers from sanctions from the United States. Venezuela also has big problems with corruption, and they also have the problem that they don't have. You said that the problem was they already had steel manufacturing. They already had big farms. No, the problem is they don't have it. It's a one commodity economy.
Why is that relevant? Why does that matter? You don't need to produce every good that your society consumes.
If your entire economy is centered around oil, right, and you are importing all of your food and products, and then you get sanctions imposed on you, and yes, there are big problems there, and they've manifested themselves, and I think it's interesting, though. Now, you acknowledge, what I think is interesting about your Venezuela narrative is the narrative I normally get from people about Venezuela is that everyone has been poor and starving ever since they had socialism there, and that proves communism always fails. That's not the narrative that you have. You've admitted that there were economic successes there until a certain point. Now, why does the media lie? Why can't they admit what you just said? Why
I don't know. I'm not here to talk as a Fox News correspondent. I'm just curious why you think central planning is effective.
Or MSNBC or CNN. None of them can admit
MSNBC or CNN
with their socialist economy until roughly about 2014.
Why am I getting real?
Let's not
extensively obscures. Why are you saying this and none of them are saying this?
I don't think Destiny wants to. I don't think Destiny wants to speak for media companies.
I'm not here to.
Well, I appreciate your honesty because everyone tells me all the time everyone's been starving ever since they moved towards socialism in Venezuela. You admit that the problems began fairly recently. Thank you.
Thank you
for your honesty. So we can agree anti-communists are liars. We can agree on that. That the anti-communist narrative that's promoted throughout U.S. society is based on deception and falsehood. Thank you for admitting that. I appreciate it.
I don't know if Destiny can
so I haven't
make that claim.
Anything.
Why is it necessary to lie, Destiny? Why don't they say what you just said? That
I don't think they say
Destiny can't speak for media companies. Destiny, go ahead and respond.
Because most of the people that were alive in the United States probably either have parents or grandparents that were involved in some crazy dumbass U.S. war against communism and the idea that like all commies are trying to destroy the world and blah 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 blah. And like that is a lie, and it's stupid. It's incredibly stupid. The way that Americans view, if you ask the average American what is socialism, the answer they would probably give you is stealing money from the rich and giving it to the poor.